Hi friends, welcome to this week's video. Today you're finding me in the woods because I want to talk about depression. Specifically the books that have gotten me through my depression. Maybe not that, but have helped me through my depression. So filming in the woods feels appropriate because, you know, depression to me feels really cold and isolating. So what an appropriate backdrop. And I kind of filmed this video yesterday, but my battery ran out and I got super cold. Let's see if that happens today. Anyway, so in this week's video, I want to talk to everybody that has reading as their coping mechanism through stressful times like 2020. And I want to give book recommendations to the books that have helped me through my depression. So I'm gonna talk about the books that will distract you, books that will make you laugh, and books that will give you perspective. When it comes to the last one, I only have one book recommendation. Altogether, there are 4 books, maybe 5. So stay tuned to find out what those books are. Let's start with the books that will give you a distraction. I have them behind me. 2 books, in fact. I have Winter, the last book in the Lunar Chronicles, and The Hunger Games, the first book in the Hunger Games trilogy. The reason why I'm recommending these 2 books is because reading nostalgic fantasy, sci-fi, and dystopian books I need to be eloquent. Reading nostalgic books when I'm depressed, and specifically books that are out of this world, far into the future, give me a sense of escapism and comfort that newer books, specifically contemporary books, can't when I'm depressed. And the Lunar Chronicles, I'm sure you already heard of if you've been on BookTube for a while. They are a fantasy sci-fi fairy tale retelling of our favorite fairy tales we read as children, like Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel. I'm currently rereading them because, you know, I'm not getting into this now. I'm currently rereading them because I needed that little bit of comfort, especially towards the latter half of 2020. I haven't read them yet because it's the last book in the series. And it's gonna make me really sad, even though I already know how it's gonna end. The Hunger Games, I don't need to give a synopsis. Kids fighting each other to the death, really comforting to read. But yeah, you don't need to specifically read these 2 books, these book series, but picking out something that you already read before that are kind of the half fantasy and sci-fi elements might give you a sense of escapism and comfort while, you know, you're going through it. If you're not like me and if you don't like reading fantasy and sci-fi books when you're depressed, I would recommend maybe picking up contemporary books, maybe even romance. A book that I would recommend is You Should See Me in a Crown. I'm forgetting the author's name, I'm terribly sorry. But we read it in our book club last year and everybody seemed to love it. And you can find a review for it over on Instagram account. But essentially, when it comes to this section, you should pick up books that will distract you, whether that's fantasy or contemporary romance. My phone, it fell again. If I get water damage, I'm gonna get so sad. Now let's go to the next section. A book that will give you perspective. This next book is the most recent book that I have read. It's Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I picked it up because I love the I Weigh podcast with Jamila Jamil. And Matt Haig was on it and he talked about the Midnight Library and Reasons to Stay Alive on it. And I picked it up and I love it. In Reasons to Stay Alive, Matt Haig opens up about his depression. He talks a lot about reasons to stay alive. There's a big chapter on 2 people who have friends and loved ones who are depressed and how to be a help and a loving hand while you're supporting them. I found it really weirdly comforting to read because last time I was depressed, at least I had my big spiral, was in 2018. And reading it, it made me almost retrace steps in my own mind and to think back to the things that I used to say to myself and also to see how far I've come. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you are depressed at this very moment because it might be a little bit triggering. I certainly couldn't read it if I was, in my big fog, maybe towards the latter half when I was trying to recover. But it's a beautiful read. It's a beautiful read. When I finished reading it, I opened up my diary and I wrote down my own reasons to stay alive. Whether that was finding a new book series to love, moving to a bigger city. I'm not going to get into my reasons because they're really personal, but if you're going to pick it up, be in the right state of mind. And I challenge you to write down your reasons to stay alive. Whether they can be whatever you want. I also found it really funny because there was a chapter in it where he talked about things people say to depressives, but then he changed depression to another illness like cancer or diabetes. Because if you met a diabetic person, you wouldn't shame them for wanting their insulin, but for some reason, and for two people who have mental illness, there's just so much stigma. And it's really funny, at least to me. Maybe you'll find it sad, but sometimes you have to find humor in the darkest of moments. Anyway, now let's talk about the books that will probably make you laugh. The first one, I have two book recommendations, and the first one is Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. I have only listened to the audiobook because Carrie Fisher is the one narrating it, and just listening to her voice makes me so happy and comforted. A Star Wars stan, Now I got sad. Anyway, in Wishful Drinking, there are just a series of anecdotes from her tour Wishful Drinking, and the reason why I found it funny, first of all, is just so far away from where I am in my life that just listening to a kind of rich celebrity talking about the weird things that happen in her life, in her crazy family, it just becomes funny. And I love Carrie's sarcasm. I know in some book reviews, some people found her sarcasm to be kind of annoying. I don't understand. I love her sarcasm. But since we're talking about depression, Carrie Fisher in Wishful Drinking opens up about her bipolar disorder, and she opens up about her alcoholism, and it got very vulnerable in many moments, and it made me really feel for her. And the way that she structured it with opening up me vulnerable and throwing in some sarcastic comments made me laugh at times I didn't think I would laugh at. There's some jokes in it I was like, should I be laughing at this? But if you're a Star Wars stan like moi, I would pick it up, especially the audiobook. It's wonderful. I think she narrates all of her audiobooks. And in her other memoir, The Princess Diaries, her daughter Billy is the one narrating it with her. Another wonderful performance. Wishful Drinking, towards the end, I found really easy to get through because it's just a series of anecdote after anecdote, and at least you can tell that it's taken from a tour because at least to me, there were some moments I didn't understand how we got from one thing to another. But if you are just if you just want to have something playing in the background while you're, I don't know, knitting, another coping mechanism that I have, I loved it. I miss Carrie Fisher. Now I'm sad again. The next book that will probably make you laugh is Ayoade on Top by Richard Ayoade. I learned about this book through the Graham Norton show. I'm gonna link to a clip where Richard talks about this book for himself. It's hysterical. I had to pick it up because it just sounded so weird. Essentially, it's a book that argues, it's a critical analysis of the Gwyneth Paltrow movie The View from the Top, and it argues that The View from the Top is a long forgotten masterpiece that should be talked about more. And the sarcasm and irony in this book is I'm just laughing thinking about what was that. At some points, it was hard to understand whether it was still being sarcastic or if he genuinely thinks this movie is a masterpiece. I still don't really understand, because there's some moments where it was just so clear that he was just making fun of the movie, but then it got a little too deep and I was like, now I don't understand. But getting there and just listening to the audiobook, yeah, I'll also listen to the audiobook. It's great because Rich Adoadi is the one narrating it too. Listening to the audiobook made it even funnier. So I highly recommend it. It's really strange. But not strange enough. It's really good, but not good enough for me to watch the movie. I think I got the general gist reading the book. Anyway, when it comes to these two books that I just recommended, humor is really suggestive. Anyway, what makes me laugh might not make you laugh. So take these recommendations with a grain of salt. They made me laugh, and they, especially the Carrie Fisher book, got me through a lot of tough times. So maybe they will for you. Ironically enough, depression is something that makes all of us feel really alone, when in actuality so many of us have gone through it one time or another. So I just want to say, you're not alone, and the books that I just mentioned might give you a little bit more comfort. And I will link to some resources down below, especially some suicide hotlines that can be a good source, that can be good for you to call if you're getting to a dark state in your mind. But that's all from me, and I'm gonna go home and get warm because I literally cannot feel my toes right now. I'm so cold. I'm not gonna do this video idea again. Anyway, that's all from me. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up button and click subscribe for my effort of coming to the woods in the winter time. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.